Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage Chief Warrant Officer 5, Phyllis J. Wilson, U.S. Army retired, President, Women in Military Service for America Memorial Foundation.
Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated. I feel like I need to get up on my toes, but I tell you, when the secretaries get up here, they're still going to have to raise them. General Vaught, when she met him a few minutes ago, she looked at him and said, "How tall are you?" But before we begin, let's give a round of applause to the U.S. Army Band, Pershing's Own Brass Quintet, for providing superb Thank you very much. Welcome, Secretary Austin, Secretary McDonough, distinguished guests, fellow servicewomen, women veterans, family, and friends. Welcome to the 25th anniversary ceremony of the Military Women's Memorial. We are still America's only major national memorial to honor and tell the stories of all the women who have defended this nation, beginning with the American Revolution. It is a grand day to celebrate this major milestone in the life and journey of the memorial. And we are, I'm going to choke up already. We are particularly honored to have the woman who made it all happen. Brigadier General Wilma Vaught. We are indeed blessed. And thank you all for being here. 25 years ago, some 40,000 military women, past and present, families and friends, gathered here in what was then and still is the largest gathering of military women in history. It was a grand day that changed the face of monumental Washington. And on that day, 101-year-old World War I Navy yeoman Frida Hardin, who had traveled all the way from California to see her memorial become a reality, was one of the featured speakers. And when she said, "When I served in the Navy, women were not even allowed to vote," the crowd erupted. Imagine what she would say today, with women commanding battle groups, flying fighter aircraft, fighting on the battlefield, wearing 4 stars, and so much more. All advances since she had helped cut that ribbon 25 years ago. So let us take our first step to the future here today as we honor the memorial's past and look to the possibilities of the next 25 years for this national treasure. To begin, please stand for the presentation of the colors by the Military District of Washington Joint Forces Color Guard, the singing of the national anthem by Army Sergeant First Class Nicole Bouffard from the U.S. Army Band Pershing's Own, and the invocation by Air Force Chaplain Colonel Ruth Segras of the Office of Air Force Chief of Chaplains. Chaplain Segras first delivered the invocation here at the memorial as a young captain, and we like to think that we've had a positive impact on her career. Present the colors.
what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Oh, fight over. Oh.
Please pray with me. Lord, we have gathered for this civil celebration to honor the heroism, heritage, and home of women veterans. We honor our visionary, Brigadier General Wilma Vaught, who thought it not robbery to forge the path to collectively showcase the contribution of women who serve and continue to serve. Thank you that this memorial serves as a beacon of hope and a house of herstory that validates and values diversity and inclusion. Bless now all who are here and the remainder of our program, and bless this hallowed ground for years to come. This is my prayer in your holy name. Amen.
Please be seated. And thank you all for providing such a stunning formal start to our program today. And before I introduce our first esteemed speaker, I wanted you to know that we were not outdone by Frida Hardin 25 years ago. We too today have among us a 101-year-old World War II sister in service. Please welcome World War II Lieutenant J.G. Cecil Cover. Lieutenant Cover served here in Washington, D.C. During the war, during World War II, she served here in Washington, D.C. as a courier. And as she claims, it was all footwork, no head work. Welcome, Lieutenant Cover. Hey, I'll take it. Bring it. On the other side. Why don't we take pictures like this anymore? And now it is my distinct privilege to introduce our first speaker and distinguished guest, the Honorable Dennis R. McDonough, Secretary of Veterans Affairs. Before coming to the Department of Veterans Affairs, Secretary McDonough served as the 26th White House Chief of Staff and as Principal Deputy National Security Advisor. He believes deeply, as he testified to Congress, that there is no more sacred obligation nor noble undertaking than to uphold our promises to our veterans, whether they came home decades or days ago. Please join me in welcoming the 11th Secretary of Veterans Affairs, Dennis McDonough.
Chief Wilson, thank you so much for the very kind introduction. More importantly, thank you for your service in uniform and your leadership of the Military Women's Memorial. Secretary of Defense Austin, my friend, my colleague, it's an honor to be here with you. Let me also recognize Military Women's Memorial Board Chair, Major General Edmonds, and all the members of the board. And General Vaught, so good to see you. Thank you for your decades of service in uniform to this nation, and in the decades since, helping give our country this sacred space. This past summer, in presenting General Vaught the Medal of Freedom, President Biden described her as one of those extraordinary Americans who has done so much to ensure, as he said, the cause of freedom shines like the sun. The cause of freedom shines like the sun. That's exactly what this memorial is about, as we're reminded, especially this morning. It's about ensuring women veterans' courageous service and enormous sacrifices for the cause of freedom shine like the sun, as brightly as it's beaming down on us this morning. It's about ensuring our country and the world knows the heroic stories of women veterans, stories that guide us and inspire us, and will do so for generations to come. And by extension, this memorial is about the contribution this nation's women veterans make to the country in the years after serving in uniform. Here's what I mean. Lieutenant Colonel Patricia Jackson Kelly was born in the very small town of Bayboro, North Carolina, part of a family with a tradition of service to our country and to their community. Her father, a veteran of World War II. Her brothers and sisters, veterans. Her mom, a devoted nurse assistant. And her mom's example inspired Patricia to be a nurse herself. And then she took that calling and followed in her father's and her brother's footsteps, volunteering to serve the nation in uniform as a nurse for 26 years. And even as Patricia was serving in the Army Reserves out in California, she stepped up to serve vets at our West Los Angeles VA hospital. There, over the course of 14 years as a VA nurse, her second career, Patricia was fighting for vets who needed her compassion, her nursing excellence the most. Vets struggling with mental health challenges, with substance abuse challenges, and with homelessness. For 10 of those years as a Women Veterans Program Manager, Patricia was advocating for women vets. And for her, that advocacy meant, in part, going to the front lines of homelessness in LA, which we all know is something called Skid Row. Often alone, to find and connect with women veterans who had fallen into homelessness and help them get the support they need, not just to survive, but to thrive. Because of her expertise, Patricia was asked to help shape some of our partners' most effective programs for ending veteran homelessness. And in the years since retiring from the Army, and Veterans Affairs, Patricia continues serving her community, this country, fighting for vets in an abundance of ways. As the County of Los Angeles Commissioner for Military and Veterans Affairs in the 2nd District, as president of the National Association of Black Military Women, on the board of the Foundation for Women Warriors, with the nonprofit Women Veterans on Point, among so much more. Patricia's incredible life is a reminder for all of us that so many women vets like her don't just serve while in uniform. They serve, as so many of you continue to do, for a lifetime. Over the years, Patricia has served her country. She served their fellow vets. She has served us all. And we are, all of us, so much better for it. So Patricia, if you just please stand so we can recognize you. Thank you for your courageous service, for your continuing to serve. And thanks for showing your community and your country what fighting like hell for vets looks like. It's inspiring. It's important, and here's why. When you and all the vets here signed up to serve the country in the military, we made you a promise. If you fight for us, we'll fight for you. If you serve us, we'll serve you. If you take care of us, we'll take care of you when you come home. The thing is, our country as a whole makes that promise. But it's our job. In fact, it's our privilege at the Department of Veterans Affairs to keep that promise. So let me speak directly to you for a moment, to our women vets, to our women service members alike. You know, etched in the glass panes in the ceiling above us are some powerful words spoken by courageous, powerful women vets. And when the sun hits that glass just right, these walls are illuminated with those words. It's a sight to behold. None of those words are more instructive or illuminating than the words of World War II veteran Lieutenant Ann Bream. Lieutenant Bream's words always bear repeating as an admonition to those who need one, a reminder to anybody who might forget. She said, "Let the generations know that women in uniform also guaranteed their freedom. That our resolve was as great as the brave men who stood among us. And with victory, our hearts were just as full and beat just as fast. That the tears fell just as hard for those we left behind us. You and your sisters in arms, back to even before this country was found, bravely, selflessly standing guard around the world today. We owe you everything. And today you're the fastest growing segment of VA's enrollees. We're mighty proud to serve you, to support you. And while we haven't always done as well by you at VA as we should, today we're fighting like hell to reach a high, high bar, serving you as well as you have served us. By delivering timely access to world-class health care, earned benefits that you have earned, that you deserve. And we've been taking important steps to do that, to make our healthcare facilities and programs safe, respectful, and welcoming to you. Women veterans are offered assignment to a designated women's health primary care provider. That's both for general primary care and for gender-specific primary care. We have women vet coordinators in every regional office. They're to help you access your benefits and provide assistance specific to women veterans. And please don't ever forget the benefits and services VA offers are your benefits and services. You deserve them. You earned them. And we want you to take full advantage of them. Because at VA, we want to give you our very best, just like you have given to this country. So today and every day, we celebrate and honor the tremendous courage of women vets who defended our freedom. May your courage, your unwavering strength, and your sacrifices continue to shine like the sun and guide and inspire us all. General Vought, Chief Wilson, thank you for your kind invitation to join us, to join you today. And congratulations, everyone, on this important milestone. God bless you all, and God bless our nation's service members, our vets, their families, caregivers, and survivors. And may we continue to give you, as you have given us, our very best. Thank you.
So we're going to have a quick sort of a costume change for the stage. Any of you that were here 25 years ago, you may remember that Kenny Rogers and Patty Austin sang a very special song written just for us. Well, we're doing something like that all over again. We have a new anthem. This time, BMI award-winning producer, Grammy-nominated songwriter, and three-time Academy of Country Music Awards nominee Stokes Nielsen stepped up to do us the honors. So now it's my pleasure to introduce to you Stokes Nielsen and the anthem, Military Women, Strength of America. And joining Stokes as vocalist is singer-songwriter and actress Alyssa Schuss. Please take you have the stage. The stage is yours.
From the birth of a nation, through trials and through grace, you've guarded our future, kept our freedom embraced. With unbridled spirit and a heart for the fight, never backing down, holding fast to what's right. You lead with the strength of America, determined till the day is won. The sacrifice, you're standing strong, so we can live a life that most dream of. Shielding us, rising up, whatever you are called, the strength of America. The shoulders you stand on make destinies dawn, and all that came before you, they will always live on. Your mothers, our daughters, our sisters, our friends, cherished forever for your will to defend. You lead with the strength of America, determined till the day is won. Sacrifice, you're standing strong, so we can live a life that most dream of. Shielding us, rising up, whatever you are called, the strength of America.
Wow. Wow, wow. What an honor to have Stokes capture our story of service in song, the strength of America. We are definitely going to see if we can make that go global. Let's make it go viral. That was the voice of an angel singing, I think. You do not want me to try to sing it, I can tell you that. Yeah. I can give this away. I'd like to give this microphone away. Sir, no. Okay. Well, that doesn't happen every day. I don't need it. No. I was trying to give the other one back. I'm sorry. Well, that just happened. I feel pretty special right now. So at Memorial's groundbreaking ceremony in June of '95, 27 years ago, a tradition began of having a servicewoman or a woman veteran from each branch of service speak at our ceremonies. Well, why did we do that? Well, because at this memorial, we pay tribute both individually and collectively. I don't know what I'm doing. So who better to speak for these women than women themselves? So we're going to start first to speak of her service to our country, and what this day means to her is retired Army nurse Colonel Lucretia McClenny. A native of Louisville, Kentucky, Colonel McClenny joined the Army in 1971 and served 30 years in a variety of medical assignments. Yeah, right? She's been all over the place, and including assignments as chief nurse, deputy commander for nursing, senior policy analyst at the Office of the Secretary of Defense for Health Affairs, and as a member of the President's National Healthcare Reform Task Force, and more. We talk about these continued service, Secretary McDonough, that these women are men. All of us that serve in uniform seem like we have it in our DNA. We have to continue to serve even after we hang up that uniform. So among Colonel McClenny's numerous awards, 3 Legion of Merits, Defense Meritorious Service Medal, 6 awards of the Meritorious Service Medal, Order of the Military Medical Merit, and many more. Please welcome to the podium Colonel Lucretia McClenny.
Thank you for that kind, plus vertically challenged people. Good morning, distinguished guests, fellow veterans, servicemen and women, ladies and gentlemen. As you heard, I'm Colonel Retired Lucretia McClenny, and I'm a very proud charter member of this memorial. I'm honored for the opportunity to be here today to commemorate a significant milestone day for military women, the 25th anniversary of the Military Women's Memorial, which is the only historical repository documenting the service of all military women. I would be remiss if I didn't take this opportunity to thank all those responsible, both past and present, who made this memorial possible. I also want to add my special thanks to General Law, President Emeritus, Chief Wilson, our current president, and to all the WMSA team who operate and maintain this beautiful memorial in our honor. I have witnessed their outstanding and tireless efforts personally when they helped me coordinate my retirement ceremony here in 2011, and while having the honor of serving here as a docent. This memorial is a place where our members and friends can be proud to be a part of. So please, please register if you haven't done so and tell your story. My service journey was inspired by my father, retired Master Sergeant Joseph McClenny. My father served My father was a very proud veteran of the Korean and Vietnam Wars. My father served 2 tours in Vietnam. However, like the thousands of men and women who served in Vietnam, he came home to less than a hero's welcome. Although he was denigrated for his service, my father never complained. He always said, "There's no greater honor than serving your country in the armed forces." I was also inspired by the words of President John F. Kennedy to ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country. I entered the Army via the Scholarship Student Nurse Program. The Army paid for my last 2 years of bachelor's degree for 3 years of service. My first assignment was Fort Knox. And the interesting thing about Fort Knox is that in the entire 2 years that I was there, I was the only African-American female officer on that installation. However, when I moved on to my next assignment at Walter Reed Army Medical Center, I was blessed to meet 5 amazing African-American trailblazers who became my mentors and inspired me to stay on active duty. In them, I saw what was possible irrespective of race and gender. 2 of my mentors would become legendary. General Hazel Johnson Brown was the first female African-American general in the U.S. military and chief of the Army Nurse Corps. General Clara Adams Zender also rose to become chief of the Army Nurse Corps and had numerous firsts, far too many to mention. General Adams Zender advised me to join the ROCs, the Army's premier organization dedicated to mentorship. I was privileged to join the ROCs leadership training team, led by retired Lieutenant General Arthur Gregg, a living legend and trailblazer, who will soon have his name, along with Lieutenant Colonel Charity Adams, former commander of the 6888 Postal Battalion, be honored by the renaming of Fort Lee in their honor. The ROCs leadership team that does deserve applause. The ROCs leadership team provided training and mentoring to ROTC cadets at historically Black colleges and universities to help them transition from cadets to officers. I learned early of the significant value of mentoring and tried to emulate that throughout my military career, leading and building the next generation to be successful. Vernon Jordan once said, "You are where you are today because of the shoulders you stood on." I was blessed to serve with distinction for 30 years because I was able to stand on the shoulders of some amazing trailblazers who are my heroes and sheroes. And to them, I simply say, thank you.
Thank you, Colonel McClenny. Born in Georgia, raised in New York, retired Marine Corps Reserve Lieutenant Colonel Karen Walker was an all-Marine women's basketball player for some 10 years of her military career, playing in tournaments and representing the Marine Corps and the nation around the globe. An aviator, Colonel Walker has served as Air Command and Control Officer for Marine Tactical Air Command Squadron 38 and the 3rd Marine Aircraft Wing. She also was a Marine officer instructor for Naval ROTC at the University of New Mexico and a legislative officer in the Office of Legislative Affairs. She is the recipient of numerous awards, including the Air Medal with Flight Strike Numeral 1, a Navy and Marine Corps Commendation Medal, and a Joint Service Achievement Medal. Colonel Walker earned the Air Medal as well as her Naval Aviation Observer Wings when she served as one of 9 Marine liaisons aboard the AWACS during Operation Iraqi Freedom. Colonel Walker earned her PhD in Industrial Organizational Psychology, a master's degree in human behavior, and a bachelor's of science in communications. She served in the Marine Corps for 21 years. Please welcome Lieutenant Colonel Karen Walker to the podium.
Thank you. Good morning. Just to clarify, I'm not an aviator. I want to not take any credit from any aviators. So air command and control. So I controlled aircraft from aviators. So I want to be very clear about that. Welcome, distinguished guests, family, friends, sisters, and Marines. Thank you. As Marines, there is no greater honor than to serve with Marines. And as a Marine officer, there is no greater honor and privilege than to lead Marines. I served in the Marines for 21 years and completed 3 combat deployments. And through all of my trials and tribulations, challenges, and there were many, whether it was in the desert, in the mountains with 85 plus pound packs, that pack gets heavier as I get older. Whether it was controlling aircraft from the back of a Humvee or from the back of a KC-130 or an AWACS aircraft with the Air Force, or it was on a rainy night, a cold night, a windy, dusty night. There's one thing that actually always sticks in my mind, and it has nothing to do with any of those challenging nights. It was a thank you note I received from one of my Marines, and it had 5 simple words on it. It said, "Thank you for your leadership." And it wasn't so much about the thank you note and its words, it was the timing of the note. Because during that time, I was at a very dark place. I was thinking to myself that everything I was doing, did it really matter? I really felt invisible at that moment in my service. And I want to remind you that sometimes when you're in your deepest, darkest challenges and your hardest times, that sometimes your service in that moment isn't about you and that trial and tribulation. It's about who needs to see you. And who needs to see your smile, who needs to hear your voice, and who needs to see your presence. And I want to thank each and every one of you for your presence, because I wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for a lot of you being there and being present and speaking your voice and living your life. And I know I will always be a Marine. And now I'm Dr. Karen Walker. But I want to encourage you to always be you and live your truest life. So stay bold and stay beautiful. Doctor's orders. Mwah.
Well, thank you, Dr. Walker. We are honored today to have, and if I get any of these wrong, I'm very sorry, but I'm doing the best that I'm reading it. So go with me. We're still so proud to have every one of you, and I do apologize for any mistakes I might make along the way, but we're just going to go with the flow. So today, our Navy speaker is retired Navy Senior Chief Petty Officer Christy Grayson. Senior Chief Grayson, a native of Simi Valley, California, joined the Navy in 1982 and retired in 2008 after 26 years. A religious program specialist, she served in a variety of locations, both ashore and afloat. Her overseas assignments included Iceland, Spain, Japan, and afloat aboard the USS Shenandoah and the Nimitz. Stateside assignments included Mayport, Florida, Naval Surface Warfare Center, Dahlgren, Virginia, Naval Personnel and Bureau of Medicine and Surgery here in D.C., and Naval Medical Center in Portsmouth, Virginia. Among her awards, 2 Meritorious Service Medals, 6 awards of the Navy and Marine Corps Commendation Medal. Please welcome to the podium Senior Chief Petty Officer Christy Grayson.
Good morning, distinguished guests, friends, family, fellow veterans. As Phil said, I am retired Senior Chief Petty Officer, proud and to serve as a religious program specialist. In 1979 was the original date of the rating that it was established as RP. So a lot of times early on in my career, nobody knew who and what we were. The fact that we supported the chaplains of the Chaplain Corps. So that's something very proud, the fact that serving for 26 years. But here's my story. After graduating high school, I knew heading to college just wasn't for me. Growing up, I always thought about joining the Navy. At the time, I was a daughter, a sister, a niece, and a cousin of veterans. As you can see, family service runs deep. My parents met while serving in the Army in Albuquerque, New Mexico. My mother always spoke very highly about her time in the service and the wonderful friendships she made and continued to maintain throughout her life. 40 years ago, I joined the Navy to fulfill advertisements of the time that promised, join the Navy, see the world. It's not just a job, it's an adventure. And let the journey begin. My adventures took me to Iceland, Spain, Italy, Scotland. I've climbed the pyramids in Egypt, the Sydney Bridge in Australia, and Mount Fuji in Japan. The journey allowed me to reach new heights that I probably never would have achieved on my own. Like my mother, I made lasting friendships throughout my career, some of whom are here today. We often talk about the families we are born into and their influence on our lives, but for me, it's the family I made while in the service that I feel has molded me into the woman I am today. As we celebrate this 25th anniversary, I have to tell you my association with the Women's Military Memorial dates back further to that, and that is during my first tour of duty here in Washington, D.C., I got involved with the groundbreaking event that took place in June of 1995. A friend and I began volunteering to help with the preparations for that ceremony. One of those behind-the-scenes tasks that we were given was to spray paint the shovels that were being ceremoniously used to break the ground. I was fortunate enough to be here for that event. Unfortunately, the 25th anniversary, I was deployed, so I was not able to be here. But over the last 25 years, I have been a part of or witness to many friends who have had ceremonies in this very building. It is truly an honor to be here with my fellow military family today. And in closing, I wish you the traditional fair winds and following seasons. Thank you.
Thank you, Senior Chief, for joining us all the way from California. We're especially pleased to have Chief Master Sergeant Sadie Chambers join us today on behalf of Air Force women. From Leander, Texas, Chief Chambers is a 22-year veteran of the Air Force. Initially an aircraft electrical and environmental maintenance technician, she retrained into religious affairs career field in 2006. Today, she is the Religious Affairs Senior Enlisted Advisor for the Department of the Air Force in the Office of the Chief of Chaplains here in Washington, D.C. As such, she is the principal advisor to the Air Force Chief of Chaplains on all policy matters and utilization of the Religious Affairs career field and the Air Force Chaplain Corps. She has served around the world. The theme here, you get to see the world, boy. Including Kuwait, Uzbekistan, the UAE, the United Kingdom, and Qatar, as well as various assignments here in the United States, Florida, Arizona, Texas, Colorado, and Washington, D.C. She's the recipient of numerous awards and decorations, including 6 awards of the Meritorious Service Medal, 2 awards of the Air Force Commendation, and she has been recognized with numerous achievement awards and honors. Please welcome to the podium Chief Master Sergeant Sadie Chambers.
I'm not as vertically challenged, but I apologize for the people that come after. So, Secretary Austin, Secretary McDonough, General Lott, sisters in service, brothers in service, and all those who believe in and love us, thank you for this opportunity. I am incredibly humbled by the opportunity to speak. So when I think about the Airman's Creed, and I recognize that all of you might not know, it is an amazing creed. And there are two lines that especially speak to me when I think about my service. And it is that I have answered my nation's call, and I will never leave an airman behind. So as I speak today, that will be the theme that you see resounding. I joined the Air Force because my father was in the Air Force. My grandfather was in the Air Force. My mother was an MTI in the Navy. I don't think that's what they called it, but that's what she did. And so I had always had this sense of calling to serve. And when I couldn't afford to go back to college, I was like, well, I'm getting on this a little bit faster than I expected. And I scored really high in electrics, and the recruiter said, well, we'll train you, and I believe. And I knew that I had the support of my family to get me there. And so I started out as an aircraft maintainer. And when I got to my first base, I was one of 3 women in the entire squadron. And that was a hard first transition, but I had wonderful reservists that we served right alongside that treated me like a kid sister and invested in me. And they believed in me. And I became an excellent maintainer. And it was on my first deployment that I met a religious affairs airman. And by the way, I have to say, you have great overwatch today. We got the chaplain, we had an RP, an RIA. Like, we're doing great. So we've got you. This is when I met my first religious affairs airman, back then known as chaplain assistant. And I was like, wow, I think I can do that. I still had 4 more years as an aircraft maintainer to get through, but serve with excellence, right? And I was a good maintainer, really good. But when I talked to my commander and I said, I'd like to retrain, and he said, why? Don't go. Like, we want to keep you. And I said, well, if I could be this good at something that maybe isn't my calling, how much better could I be at something that is? So he was like, all right. And he signed the paperwork, and the rest is kind of history, right? In the chaplain corps, our vision is to care for airmen, guardians, and families more than anyone thinks possible. What an awesome opportunity to be here and represent the Air Force, because that's what I get to do day in and day out. I walk alongside our men and women and their families, and I say, it'll be okay. We're here for you. And I get to live life, and I'm humbled that they embrace us and allow us to do that. So I had that calling to serve, and then maybe a higher calling to serve in the chaplain corps, and that continued to be there. And I was like, well, I'm never going to leave an airman behind. And I started out and I said that I couldn't afford to go to college. And the investment that the Air Force has made in me allowed me to continue to go to school and support me and say, I think you should try this, and you can do it, and you can keep doing this, and going to school. And then I got the opportunity to step out after having received my master's degree coming in and teach as the first enlisted academic faculty instructor at the Air Force Academy. So that's crazy. But that took somebody believing in me and saying, I think you can do this. And that wasn't easy to do, but it was amazing. And I think so much for Colonel Anarumo and saying, like, hey, we're about change in the Air Force and innovation, and let's do this, because our enlisted are called to deliberately develop our company grade officers. So why wouldn't a senior enlisted be there in that seat, teaching leadership at the academy? What an awesome opportunity. And then I got to step back from that, lead the way. We've hired many more instructors. Quite a few of them are women. And we're excited for that possibility. I came back to the chaplain corps, where I love and where is home. And I continue to serve and lead and get to share my story and walk alongside our airmen, guardians, and their families. So the thing that I would like to leave with today is a quote from Emily Wergrainer, She's an award-winning journalist. She's a blogger. She's an artist. She's an author. And she says it takes one person believing in you. It takes one person loving you. And that's all it takes to change the world. So I know that there are many in here that have people believing in them and loving them. And that's why we were able to do what we do. But if you haven't heard it lately, I believe in you. And I love you. Now go change the world.
I'm not quite that tall. And have you noticed the theme? We have total slackers that we're bringing to the stage, right? Just they don't do anything much, but we're trying to prop them up. We believe in you. Someday you'll get there, okay? Yeah. And now I have the pleasure of welcoming Space Force Guardian Master Sergeant Maria Seaborn, who currently serves as Superintendent and Senior Enlisted Leader to the Director of Staff, Headquarters, United States Space Force here in D.C. She is the Director of Staff's Principal Advisor on the synchronization and integration of priorities, procedures, and policies across the space staff and for Guardians around the world. She entered the Air Force in 2004 and transferred to the Space Force in 2020. She is a space systems operator and has worked in a spectrum of missions in missile warning, electronic warfare, acquisitions and strategy policy, and joint agency affairs. Please welcome to the podium Master Sergeant Maria Seaborn.
Good morning, distinguished guests, military leaders, veterans, and supporters gathered here for this momentous occasion. I am Master Sergeant Maria Seaborn, as she mentioned, of the United States Space Force, and it's an honor to stand here alongside so many courageous hearts and minds. Being a Guardian in the newest service branch, I'm often asked, what do you do in the Space Force? Very seldom am I asked why I serve. Being the daughter of an immigrant mother from South Korea and a father, an American father who served in both the Vietnam War and the Peace War, I came into the military with a deep understanding of what it means to sacrifice, but even more so, what it means to persevere. If you asked my 21-year-old self why I joined the military, I would naively say to travel the world and to obtain a GI Bill. Almost 20 years later, I can attest to the incredible opportunities experienced, such as learning a foreign language, working on the flight line, and providing space-based warning for our troops and allies on the ground, to name a few. There are the intangible characteristics of a servicewoman that can only be attained over time and with constant regrowth, like the ability to turn pain into compassionate strength and use that to reframe how we lead others. As a servicewoman, I can show my 3 children what it means, what fortitude looks like in the face of adversity. They've witnessed firsthand what it means to be raised by a single mom serving in the military who still has residual trauma from an overseas hostage situation 8 years later, but works on myself daily to show up for them. I serve to show the young Guardians out there who aren't so sure of their futures that it can be bright and filled with unimaginable opportunities. Never in my career did I think that I would have the family that I formed with my brothers and sisters in arms, nor did I ever fathom that I would be among the first to lay the foundation of a new service branch. I serve to honor the brave women who blazed the path before us and enabled us to reach this point in our military's evolution and to empower our future female leaders. Lastly, I serve for every freedom-loving American to continue to have their constitutional rights and to safeguard them from external threats and protect them for generations. Thank you.
Thank you, Master Sergeant Seaborn. Originally from Asbury Park, New Jersey, Lieutenant Commander Maureen Hegerich. Enlisted in the U.S. Coast Guard in 1997, she initially served as a member of a boat crew and boarding team before striking yeoman, her primary specialty, until graduating from Officer Candidate School in 2007. Since she has been assigned to a variety of U.S. Coast Guard units as Logistics Department Head, Personnel Support Department Head, Assistance Intelligence Chief, and Program Training Manager for Intelligence. And today she works in the Intelligence Plans and Policy Division, where she is the sole representative for the Department of Homeland Security on maritime domain awareness. She is also the lead representative for continuity of operations and exercises for the Office of the Director of National Intelligence Emergency Response Group. Lieutenant Commander Hegerich is the recipient of the Transportation 9/11 Medal, 3 Coast Guard Commendation Medals, 4 Coast Guard Achievement Medals, and a partridge in a pear tree. I couldn't help it. I'm sorry. Please welcome to the podium Lieutenant Commander Maureen Hegerich.
Good morning, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Lieutenant Commander Maureen Hegerich, and I'm here to represent the Coast Guard. The Women's Memorial celebrates the trailblazers from the past and into the future, as well as the present, which there are many of you here right now who have definitely paved the way. I'm very humbled to be here, and you guys are a hard act to follow. So I'm grateful for the accomplishments that all of us have had, and looking forward to the exciting accomplishments that we are yet to have. And the capturing of it here right now is just absolutely humbling. So the United States Coast Guard, as some people like to call it, Uncle Sam's confused group, we are definitely a branch of the military, and as some of you might not know, we're the size of the New York City Police Department, but yet we are on all 7 continents across the globe. So I first fell in love with the Coast Guard because it started with my high school experience at the Marine Academy of Science and Technology on Sandy Hook, New Jersey. And for our oceanography class, we had to go to a boat that was past the Coast Guard unit, and I'd see these young men out there fishing, and I'd say, "What are you guys doing?" And they would tell me about the Coast Guard and how that was their downtime, and they would rescue people, and just looking at, the amazing, humbling, humanitarian aspect of the Coast Guard, I was hooked. Cleaning up oil spills, rescuing people out on the water, stopping drugs from coming into the country, like, sign me up. So I enlisted. I enlisted, and I was a yeoman for 10 years. I bounced back and forth up and down the East Coast, and had my son, went to OCS, Officer Candidate School, moved 9 times, all while going to college, serving active duty, and working a plethora of different jobs. Coast Guard has one person for 10 different jobs, whereas a lot of the other branches are able to have like one person for one job. So we have a bunch of different hats. So I did a plethora of jobs ranging from managing people to logistics and intelligence. I've faced missions as daunting as 9/11 and the Deepwater Horizon oil spill, and as rewarding as spearheading a green energy initiative that saved the Coast Guard $1 million+. Hands down, the best of my Coast Guard career has been the people. So I served on the human capital strategy for about a year, and we traveled all around the Coast Guard asking the young people, what keeps you in? What makes you want to stay in the military? And the answers were always the same. It was feeling valued and the people that they serve with. So when I became an officer, I promised myself that I would never forget where I came from. We don't reach the top of the mountain alone if we have that help. And I encourage my folks as they move up the ranks to reach down and lift everybody else up with them, help each other. The Coast Guard's a family, and it's been very kind to me. Our motto is honor, respect, and devotion to duty, and our core values are lived both on and off of duty. So the military's career comes to an end sooner or later, and I implore young folks to find that work-life balance. Honor your service, but honor your family as well. Respect your two families. Be devoted as well to your children, your partners, your spouses, for they'll be there to celebrate your milestones and reflect on your honorable service to this country long after your service ends. Make sure you're working on nurturing and making a life that will be there for you afterwards. In closing, there are 3 things that I'd like for everybody to remember. We never stop learning. We never stop growing. So wake up each morning, and when you stretch, say, I wonder what wonder the world's going to show me today. Number 2, people are our number 1 asset. Make sure you're valuing them and lifting them up, and that you're helping them reach their potential. Invest in each other. And number 3, focus on your family, especially that family that will be with you into your next chapters in life. Thank you all for listening to my story and what I've learned. Please be good to each other, and God bless.
Thank you so much, and Semper Paratus. And now it is my distinct privilege to introduce the Honorable Lloyd J. Austin III, the 28th Secretary of Defense, who will deliver the 25th anniversary address. A 1975 United States Military Academy graduate and infantry officer, Secretary Austin served for 41 years in the Army, commanding at all levels. He is a Silver Star recipient for his leadership of the Army's 3rd Infantry Division during the 2003 invasion of Iraq. And in 2010, he assumed command of the United States Forces Iraq, overseeing all combat operations in the country. Secretary Austin later served as the Army's Vice Chief of Staff and concluded his uniform service as the commander of United States Central Command, where he was responsible for all military operations in the Middle East and Afghanistan. In this assignment, he led U.S. and coalition efforts to battle ISIS in Iraq and Syria. In April of 16, he retired from the Army after more than 4 decades of military service. Sworn in as Secretary of Defense on January 22, 2021, Secretary Austin is the principal assistant to the President in all matters relating to the Department of Defense and serves on the National Security Council. Born in Alabama and raised in Georgia, he holds a Bachelor of Science degree from the United States Military Academy, a Master of Arts degree in Counselor Education from Auburn, and a Master of Business Management from Webster University. He is a graduate of the Infantry Officer Basic and Advanced courses, the Army Command and General Staff College, and the Army War College. I am honored to welcome to the podium Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin.
Says, please do not touch the mics. Sorry, but I have to touch it because otherwise. Well, good morning, everybody. It's great to be with all of you. What an impressive crowd. And Phyllis, I want to thank you for that warm introduction. I couldn't help but thinking as I was sitting there listening, who the heck is this old guy that you're talking about? I want to congratulate you, Phyllis, you and your team, for what you've done to make the day such a special occasion. Beautiful weather. You know, I was thinking as we walked up to the building here, we should do this outside. But both myself and my military assistant are infantry guys, so if you put 2 infantry guys together outside, it will rain and it will be cold. So you made a good choice. I am truly grateful for the tremendous women service members who shared their stories with all of us today. You're a tough act to follow. You know, Secretary McDonough and I were sitting there listening to these compelling testimonies, and we both said, what the heck are we doing here? We're only going to screw this up. This is really good. So tremendous, tremendous contributions to our nation. Thank you for your service, for your sacrifices. Thanks for the sacrifices of the families. It's been a real treat to hear your individual stories today. Continue to do what you're doing to inspire all those in the military and all those who support us in everything. I'd also like to thank my colleague and my good friend, Secretary Dennis McDonough, for his moving words. Probably not something that you think about each and every day, but I will tell you that Secretary McDonough has done more for the department in a short period of time than many have done in many, many years. He's an incredible intellect and the hardest worker that I've ever been around, and a great friend. And so, Dennis, thanks for what you continue to do for our veterans and their families. Dennis and I are working together to make good on our nation's sacred promise. And that promise is to always take care of our service members, their families, and our veterans. You know, we're honored to have so many veterans with us today, including, as you heard earlier, Lieutenant Cecile Cover, who stepped up to serve nearly 80 years ago during World War II. Lieutenant Cover, thanks for everything that you've done for our country and for paving the way for future generations of women in uniform. Let's give her another round of applause. You know, it truly is amazing, but this site used to be a retaining wall that was badly in need of repairs. But for the past 2.5 decades, it's been the centerpiece for visitors as they make their way into the hallowed grounds of Arlington. It has helped to fortify the progress that women have made in our armed forces. And it stands as a proud tribute to the bravery, strength, and sacrifice of every woman who has served our country. So I want to thank the person who made this memorial a reality, Brigadier General Wilma Vaught. In the Air Force, she was the first woman to hold every job that she had. And after retiring, General Vaught agreed to join the board of directors of a new foundation. And that foundation would honor women in the military. The way that General Vaught tells it is that she missed a meeting. The next meeting, she found out that she'd actually been elected their president. She tried hard not to miss many meetings going forward. But it was through her sheer determination that we got this beautiful memorial, the first of its kind to honor all American women who have served. And that's why it's sometimes affectionately known as the house that Wilma built. And I'm glad that we have ROTC cadets from General Vaught's alma mater at the University of Illinois. And they are here today carrying on her legacy. Now, in the 25 years since the dedication of this memorial, there have been plenty more firsts for women in the U.S. military. In 2005, then Sergeant Leanne Hester became the first woman to be awarded the Silver Star for valor in combat. In 2008, Army General Ann Dunwoody made history as the first woman to achieve the rank of 4-star general. And we've since had the first woman 4 stars in the Navy, the Air Force, and the Coast Guard as well. In just a few years, we've gone from lifting restrictions on women's service in combat to the first woman to lead a platoon from the elite 75th Ranger Regiment in combat. We've now had 3 women to lead combatant commands, including General Jackie Van Ovost, who is currently at the helm of TRANSCOM, and General Laura Richardson, who is commanding SOUTHCOM. And just last week, Colonel Nicole Mann became the first woman Marine to lead a NASA spaceflight. Women have broken barriers in civilian service as well. Today, the Secretary of the Army, Christine Wormuth, is the first woman in that post. In my right hand, Dr. Kathleen Hicks is the first Senate-confirmed woman to serve as Deputy Secretary of Defense. Now, the ranks, titles, and appointments of these outstanding patriots don't just add to the first of history. They are truly the best leaders for so many of our most vital jobs. So this is pretty simple. Our military needs the best warfighters in every domain, from the seas to cyberspace. We need the best combat credible force and the best leaders who are ready to win across the full spectrum of conflict. So if we were to limit those jobs to just men, who, by the way, represent less than half of the U.S. population, we wouldn't always get the best. And so that's just math. So to make sure that the United States continues to have the best fighting force in all the world, we must draw from the power of all of our people. Now, a lot has changed for women in the U.S. military over the past several decades. But even with the progress that we've made, there's still more to do. And getting rid of exclusions for women's service was just the minimum. We've still got far more work to do to eliminate bias in our ranks and to eradicate sexual harassment and sexual assault in the U.S. military. You know, it's not just enough for women to just be permitted to serve. We need a military where all of our troops can rise to their full potential and defend our country with everything that they've got. A military where raising your family and serving your country are compatible for both men and women in uniform. In a military where everyone can contribute to the full range of their talents, their creativity, and strength to the mission of defending this exceptional nation. So that's how we'll build on the legacy of the more than 3 million women who since the earliest days of our nation's founding have stepped up to serve. That's how we'll outsmart and out-innovate and outfight any potential adversary. And that's how we'll continue to stand ready to defend the nation. You know, one of the greatest gifts of this memorial is the way that it gives voice to the stories of these women. Women like then Chief Yeoman Loretta Perfectus Walsh. Back in 1917, she was the first woman to officially enlist in any branch of military service. Now, she had a few alterations to make to the men's uniforms, but she blazed a trail in that uniform. And that trail still leads the way forward. As we saw 2 years ago when Joanne Bass became the first woman to serve as Chief Master Sergeant of the Air Force. She is now the highest ranking enlisted woman of any military service. And this memorial also honors women like Colonel Mary Halloran, who served in World War II. You know, she was barely 5 feet tall. So to pass the height requirements at enlistment, she stood on her toes. And the recruiter asked her what the Army could do with someone so short. And she replied, quote, "You don't have to be 6 feet tall to have a brain that works." And this memorial honors women like Lieutenant Colonel Charity Adams. In World War II, as you heard, she commanded the 6888 Central Postal Directory Battalion. It was the first and only unit of African-American women to deploy overseas during World War II. Colonel Adams later said that she didn't think about making history. She just knew that given the opportunity and the training, she could do the job as well as or better than anybody else. And we honor women like then Lieutenant Janita Bonham, who served in Korea. Now, she was an Air Force nurse working on a C-54 that had been converted into a flying emergency room. And one day, that C-54 crashed into the sea. And Lieutenant Bonham was trapped in a submerged plane. But she fought her way to the surface and swam through rough waters to grab onto the rope of a lifeboat. And even though she was badly wounded, she guided 17 other survivors to the raft. And so a year after the crash, when she was asked how she survived that day, she simply said that it hadn't occurred to her to die. So she did. As you heard, I graduated from West Point back in 1975, and I spent more than 4 decades in the Army. With each passing year, I was privileged to serve with more and more women at every level. And there is no question that our military has gotten better and better, with an even greater focus on standards and excellence. Because patriotism knows no gender, and neither does courage. And men and women hear the same call to serve our great country. And American women have always answered. And I got to tell you that as I sat here this morning and listen to the stories of our heroes in the past, and listen to these amazing women tell their personal stories about their service to our country, I felt this wave come over me. I was flooded with memories of my service with some great women in our military. So there's one story I'll share with you. Many of you know I was Deputy Commander for Operations for 3rd Infantry Division in Operation Iraqi Freedom. And of course, we know that we operated on one side of the river, the Marine Corps operated on the other side, and we both raced up to very quickly take control of the city of Baghdad. I say quickly, it took some 22 days for that to occur, 22 days of fighting. But prior to going on that operation, you know, as a deputy commander for operations, I was in charge of maneuvering the forces around the battlefield and calling in fires to support those forces. And so I had a forward command post that moved very rapidly on the battlefield. There were women in that command post. Little known story. And so I called all my troops in the command post together the day before we crossed the line of departure. And I said, I have the responsibility to control this fight. We're going to win this fight. We are going to win this fight. And I said, but in order for me to control this fight, I have to be up close to the front edge of the battlefield. I have to see, smell, and feel what's going on. I said, that's dangerous. Bad things can happen. The enemy would very much like to capture me. But I got to tell you, I'm not going to get captured. So you know what that means. And I said, I love each and every one of you. I don't want any one of you to get hurt. So you know how I think about this. And I offer you the opportunity, any of you the opportunity, to say that you're not comfortable and you don't want to go. And trust me, if you say that, I will never think twice about it. So I'm going to leave. You talk to the chief of staff, and whoever's left, that's what we're going with. I came back several hours later. Every one of those soldiers was there. And every one of them traveled all the way from the line of departure to Baghdad. Men and women. And I got to tell you, I have never been so inspired, so encouraged by the professionalism that I saw in that team, but especially the women. It was a thing, it was remarkable. And that's a true story. It's turned out okay, so fortunately the lesson learned is not to follow a crazy general on the battlefield. But again, those women were remarkable. I knew a lot about our great women. I learned even more from that operation. For 22 days of fighting, we hung together. So you've heard some great stories today. They're all true stories. And everybody is inspired by those stories. So I want to challenge everyone to not just leave here inspired by the stories that we've heard, but to write new chapters in this great American story, to create more opportunities for women at every level in our military, to mentor those who start out on their journeys or starting out on their journeys, and to break down stubborn barriers for women who wear the cloth of our nation, and to strengthen our common resolve to move toward even greater security and true equality. And by the way, don't ask me about what I believe in. Look at my staff. Look at the senior commanders, the combatant commanders for our military today, and you'll know what I believe in. In just a few moments, Seaman Allison Smith from our Coast Guard will ring the bell that's here in front of us. You know, back in 1944, it was the bell of a ship named for the original Coast Guard Women Reserve, better known as the Spars. And ever since, the sound of this bell has honored women service members who have come before. Today, may it ring in another 25 years of remembrance and reflection here at this special memorial. May it ring out to deepen our drive to serve. May the inspiring stories that are told here resound across our country. And may the bravery of all who have served in uniform forever echo in the heart of a grateful nation. Thank you very much.
Like a big tuning fork. Thank you, Seaman Allison Smith, for ringing that bell. And Mr. Secretary, thank you for those words. You choked me up a couple of times, but I'm recovered now. Great stories all. And ringing that bell, like you said, Secretary Austin, you know, we've celebrated 25 years, and it's not just the next 25 years. Look how far into the future we are setting the conditions for where we will not be looking at the first anything anymore. It will just be commonplace. Well, thank you. Well, this concludes the official portion. I've still got a page and a half to go, so don't think you're getting up just yet. The official anniversary celebration ceremony. Thank you again to our wonderful speakers all, to Stokes and Allison for the debut of this incredible song, which is just beautiful, and you have a magnificent voice. Thank you for that. We are so grateful to all of you for your participation in this milestone event for the Military Women's Memorial. I want to thank all of our guests, but my staff have worked tirelessly to make this happen. Without our small staff, our incredible core of volunteers, our ambassadors that are here, and I'd like to ask, I'm going completely off script, every ambassador for the Military Women's Memorial that's here today, please stand. Yes. They are our grassroots movement in every state. Any place that we have an opportunity to share this story about the Military Women's Memorial, we ask them to help do that, to encourage women to take their rightful place in history, claim your place, tell your story here. If not here, where? We can only tell the stories we know. So if it's left silent, we can't capture it and share it with America. So I ask you now to please stand for the benediction by Chaplain Ruth Segris and the singing of God Bless America. And I'm sure she would be delighted if you'll do like General Vaught did for the national anthem and sing along with God Bless America. We'll ask you then to please remain in your places until the official party departs. And lastly, the U.S. Army Band's Pershing Own Brass Quartet will play a rendition of the service medley. So make sure you're ready to join in and show your service pride. Chaplain Segris, the podium is yours.
Receive now the benediction. May the grace of God go before us. The mercy, justice, and love of God be extended from us. May the favor of God rest upon us, and may the wisdom of God flow through us as we do the work our souls require. This is the benediction. Amen.